Hey everyone, welcome to Donut Titans with DVR, and today is an exciting day because we are absolutely destroying the league. Almost twice the VP of the one in second place, which is the United Front, who used to be in first place before the event started. And of course, now we're absolutely smashing it. And there's been an outcry from the entire league, alright? There's just this with one voice. They're just screaming out one message.
Hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband because they raping everybody out here.
And true that. True that. Anyways, the reason why the VP is so high is, of course, because we don't care about VP right now. It's not about that. It is about the Winter's End event and hitting into the top 5. We finally slipped into 5th place. We're pushing higher. But of course, as you see there, I'm one of the slackers. But I'm going to get on it. Don't worry. It was just I was doing some celebrations the last few days. I didn't have time for it. But I thought this was a perfect opportunity for us to talk about the difference between CROTHOS and Etalus, because Etalus is the top award. Why is he worth pushing after right now? Why did I decide to do that? Well, there is a difference between the two, a big difference actually, and it does come down to what relics you have as well. But really, there is a deficiency between Titans and relics right now in certain skill sets and certain abilities. So that's one of the reasons why it's so nice to have Etalus coming out, especially as a ranger. So let's jump over from this screen. Not much more to see there. You know, we're in 5th place, and let's see, what do we have to do to catch up? Well, we got about 10 Gs in 4th place. Woo, big jump to 3rd place. Wow, 1st and 2nd are neck and neck, so that'll be fun to kind of jump into and try and thrash with them. All right, but let's jump on over and let's take a look at what we got over here. So again, where's he at? CROTHOS. Alright, so CROTHOS, if you have him, and I do not, as you guys see, he is pretty awesome because as a berserker, he has 5 skills that are all going to be some form of damage. There are only 4 things he can choose from in each particular skill set, and it's either going to be Pikemen damage, Pikemen critical, Pikemen armor piercing, and of course, damage against Titans. Out of those, really the only one that you probably don't want to see is damage against Titans, simply because those stops being effective once you kill the Titan, or if you're not fighting the Titan with the Pikemen. But everything else is pretty stellar. But I will say this, what I've noticed is in the relics, probably the one big fall through is critical, so it's nice to have that as an option in there because there aren't too many relics to give very much critical to your Pikemen. And the percentage of critical is really nice to have somewhere up towards 1-to-1 so that you always do critical. I mean, it's basically guaranteeing a tripling of your damage. So that's nice. But damage is always awesome because, especially in the 5th skill set, boosting your Pikemen's damage by 90% when they're already huge on their damage is just going to, you know, capitalize on that ability. So CROTHOS is awesome. But what's the big deal? You know, what's the problem with this? Well, unlike Solzar with the Grenadiers, as we talked before, he's boosting their attack as well. And even if they have no defense on the Grenadiers, it's nice because they're shooting from a distance, right? But still a weakness. When it takes more than a couple of shots to take out a Grenadier unit, you know how deadly that is if you run into it. It's pretty deadly because they're still shooting at you with that boosted damage. But the problem with CROTHOS is he's sending out these Pikemen melee units to run all the way across to whatever they're going to attack and keep as much alive as, you know, themselves alive as possible. And if they get too diminished before they get there, they won't do their amazing damage. It's very similar to what we talked about earlier, a long time ago, about infiltrators. The DPS per second doesn't matter, right? Doesn't matter unless you can keep them alive long enough to do the DPS, right? And if you can keep these Pikemen alive long enough to get there, everyone's going to be yelling at you with one voice, one message.
Hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband because they raping everybody out here.
So if you want that ability to make people say that, CROTHOS is no longer the main Titan for that. Now with Etalus, and why is that arguably true? Well, Etalus also has 3 skills that's going to roll just like CROTHOS, where he's going to have, you know, either a damage or critical armor piercing or damage against Titans. But his 2 skills are going to be defensive. Right now, there's a lot more options with defensive, okay? Of course, it's got each one of the elemental defenses. It's got health, it's got armor, it's got resist against Titans, which that's not really that great. Resist against charge, hopefully you don't get that. Resistance flanking, forget that. But, you know, most of the elemental stuff for range, like physical and fire, that's not bad. Armor is probably the best one you could roll in my mind just because it stops everything. or HP, because if you bulk up the HP of your pikeman, it's going to catch people just as off guard. But that's what's nice about Etalus. He bounces out the attack and defense of the pikeman, and not only that, if you look through the relics of what you can get, yes, there is the avalanches, which people have said are pretty good, and they are pretty good. But with the pikeman buffs, Frost Shield is going to be one of your best friends, giving them health, armor, and ice resist, possibly. There's actually 4 variations of this particular shield, and what happens is the third skill rotates from the defensive nature of either resist against ice, resist against earth. It's just the elemental aspect, right? So, of course, probably the main thing you're going to want to roll on that is either, again, physical or fire, and now, due to the changes with spells, most likely fire, because they've really made it hard to use Grenadiers with the Meteor Strike spell. So you're probably going to run into a lot of archers, and that's probably going to be the best Frost Shield to get. But honestly, at that point, when you get 40% health and 30% armor to your pikemen off of your Frost Shield, the third skill is just going to be frosting on the cake, right? Extra. But you know, you can combine these things because there's so many great ice relics from the previous ice event. And there's even some nice relics coming out through this one. So you can make your pikemen basically indestructible at this point. CROTHOS made them destroy anything. That was his ability with his 5 skills to offense. But the balance with 2 skills on Etalus towards defense combined with the 3 skills for his offense and the 5 relic slots makes him now the go-to guy for pikemen. And I believe it's enough to say that if they went head-to-head, Etalus would win. Although I still think if you were controlling either one, the person who was going against AI would always win, but I think it would still be easier with Etalus just because of how he's buffing his pikemen compared to the other ones. This makes way more sense. You're going to lose less pikemen when you attack, and at the same time, when you defend, it's going to catch them more off guard. I've never been that off guard from pure offense, just simply because you can see it when you look at the relics on the Titan, and you know what you need to freeze or what you need to avoid. Especially if you have an obstacle, it makes it a lot easier if you have obstacles. But if they have defense, you can kind of guess how hard it's going to be to kill them, but you don't really know until you send that first attack out on that unit that's all bulked up, and when you see it just does not die, you're like, that's great. That's great. I can kill the Titan, but if he's got like a bunch of Goliaths that will not fall after 3 hits from your Titan, it's basically game over on that map if they've got 20 or 10 of those Goliaths dropping down on you. But there you go, that's my thoughts on Etalus versus CROTHOS, and that's why I'm still pushing towards it. The nice thing is, I've still got some relic tokens to go through before I start busting through a ton of gems. So sitting at 3,000, I'm going to probably push today to 6,000, and hopefully I'm hoping that they're going to have some sort of event promo for us where they start throwing at us maybe the 3-star item or hopefully a higher chance for 4-star. So I'm hoping for it, but sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, so I don't know. I'm hoping it happens, crossing my fingers. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in. Alright, before I go though, I gotta say, if you are League of Gods, Blue Ridge, Wolfpack, or Born Phoenix, I've got one message for you.
We're looking for you, we gon' find you, we gon' find you, so you can run and tell that, run and tell that, run and tell that, homeboy, home boy.